What's in your backpack? Just as we want our students to continue to reflect upon and revise their work, we've continued to do that with our Backpack of Skills initiative. First, we've worked to narrow our success skills from 7 to 5, while still making sure to capture what you, our schools, said were most important. To be well equipped for the most successful futures possible, it's important that JCPS students are prepared and resilient learners, globally and culturally competent citizens, emerging innovators, effective communicators, and productive collaborators. Under each of those, you will find descriptors that help to clearly define what it is that we want students to be able to do for each of those categories. Each student will be expected to defend his readiness for a successful transition at least 3 times during his JCPS journey, from elementary to middle school, middle to high, and from high school to a productive post-secondary path. Although much about defenses will be determined by schools, such as the format the defenses will take, when and where the defenses are held during the transition years, and the process for showing a student is actually ready to defend, as well as the process for repeating a defense if necessary, there are a few guidelines that are consistent for every student in every school. For example, as evidence of being a prepared and resilient learner, student defenses should include the RIT and/or ACT or SAT scores for both reading and math, as well as student-generated plans and goals for important next steps in both. In addition, students should include at least one artifact for both literacy and numeracy demonstrating command of 5th, 8th, or 12th grade English language arts and math standards. Senior year or graduation defenses must include, in addition to those, a post-secondary plan indicating the student is developing a viable post-secondary path. Evidence should include 1, that the student has met graduation requirements as well as transition-ready benchmarks. 2, we want to see a college, military, specialized training or job application and an acceptance letter, if possible. 3, we'd like to see any scholarship applications or award letters that the student has received. 4th, we want to see a record of internships or apprenticeships that the student might have completed. 5, we also want to see any specialized certifications the student might have earned. And finally, any other evidence of post-secondary exploration, readiness, and preparedness. The goal of the post-secondary plan is to ensure every student graduates with at least one viable option in place for a successful post-secondary transition and next step. It is important that students can actually show concrete evidence of having a plan. You can learn more about the tight and loose guidelines for defenses as well as for the backpack contents in the document linked to the Principal Priorities page called JCPS Graduate Profile and Tight Loose Guidelines. Let's talk now about transition readiness. Our goal is for every student to be prepared to transition successfully to the next level. This means he has quality evidence in his backpack for each of the 5 success skills. This includes artifacts representing application of content knowledge as well as the success skills. As you know, literacy and numeracy are critical areas for focus. Ideally, every student will score at or above the national norm on standardized measures like MAP. Making note of where each student scores relevant to the norm is important. And fortunately, MAP gives us norms for reading and math for each grade level in the fall, winter, and spring. In addition to the norms, it is also important to make sure we make note of each student's growth. If he or she is exceeding MAP growth goals, then they are growing more than what is typical for students like them. For example, if a student is currently behind the national norm, they will need to continue to exceed growth goals to reach their transition target. How long this will take depends on how far behind they are and how much more they are growing than their academic peers. In addition to the MAP spring norms provided in the document mentioned before, you will also find the spring norms aligned with ACT and SAT scores beginning with 5th grade. It is important to note the difference, though, in the spring RIT norms and the spring RIT scores needed to reach specific ACT and SAT scores. You'll see that scores needed to meet an ACT score of 22, for example, is higher than the norm. You can find additional information about the MAP links to college readiness in the MAP resource materials. Every student should make a year's growth in both math and reading every year. However, if a student is not on grade level, it is essential that an acceleration plan be co-constructed by teachers, other staff members who work with the student, the parents, and the student himself that is clearly articulated and understood to ensure the child is progressing sufficiently toward grade level standards. This plan may require a multi-year effort that identifies core instructional strategies and progress monitoring to ensure the goal is met. It is also important to note that not achieving transition readiness does not automatically mean retention. Research repeatedly shows that retention is rarely effective. Instead, it is important that teachers work together to creatively plan their daily schedules to ensure every student is engaged every day in rich, meaningful learning personalized for his or her needs. I hope you are really excited about this initiative. We think it has the power to be transformational. Just think, this time next year, every 5th, 8th, and 12th grader will have completed a defense showing that he is ready to move ahead.